Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this meeting of the Los Angeles City Board of Public Works. It is Friday. I was just told the recording is in progress. That's why I paused. She was very rude. This is Friday, June 25th, 2021. I hope everybody is good and looking forward to their weekend. But we got business to take care of. So, Dr. Campos, we have quorum?
Thank you, Mr. President. Fernando Campos, Executive Officer, establishing roll call and quorum for today. We have President Good, we have President Pro Tem Davis, and we have Commissioner Caloza. President Good, you do have a quorum at this time. For the record, I am dialing in remotely from home. All commissioners are dialing in remotely from home as well. And then we are also joined by our General Counsel, Miss Adina Hoppenstan from the City Attorney's Office. Mr. President, at this time, we currently have one caller on the line under general public comment. We also have one caller on the line for item number 2, and we do not have any commentary under the Neighborhood Council comment section.
All right, why don't we proceed with general public comment?
Absolutely, thank you, Mr. President. We'll go ahead and move on to general public comment. Caller ending in 890, caller ending in 890. If you can please press *6 at this time to unmute your microphone. Diana, you'll be given 2 minutes to speak under general public comment. Please go ahead. Your microphone's unmuted.
Thank you. Diana Nicole, landscape ecologist. Commissioners, it makes me sad to say that you completely bungled it this past Wednesday when you approved the replacement tree plan associated with the removal of protected California sycamore trees from a country club in Tarzana because the protected tree mitigation you approved is out of kind. That means you approved coast live oaks for California sycamores. You approved the removal of 33 protected California sycamores, but not to replace any of them because of the presence of an insect pest on the site. As documented by scientists from University of California, almost all of our trees can be infected by the insect, and this extreme decision to eliminate the California sycamore from a mitigation plan is not necessary. The replacement tree plan that you approved completely overlooks the relative value of different tree species to wildlife. By failing to replace California sycamores in kind, the ecological impacts will not be mitigated because the habitat type will change entirely. So just looking at a tree canopy is a cynical attempt to minimize the relative value of different tree species to wildlife. And planting the 92 coast live oak trees you approved is completely inappropriate relative to the conditions of the site. Coast live oaks require much less water than California sycamores, and the oaks will not survive given the frequent irrigation provided to the surrounding turf grass. I realize you're not biologists, but to hold a seat on this board that makes almost weekly decisions about our urban forest and not to know that an oak and a sycamore have different ecological functions beyond the shade they provide is a bit of an embarrassment and makes a mockery of the protected tree ordinance. I know you can do better. Start by listening to the scientists, maybe CFAC members when they call in, and follow the science. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Nicole. Mr. President, that clears the queue for public comments. We will go ahead and close that section.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Campos. Let's take the minutes from Wednesday, June 9th, 2021. I will motion to approve those minutes. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Caloza. President Pro Tem Davis, any concerns?
No concerns from me.
All right, hearing no concerns or objections, we will adopt the minutes from Wednesday, June 9, 2021, forthwith. That brings us to item number 1 today. Item number 1 is a budget increase and revised construction budget, Taylor Yard Bikeway Pedestrian Bridge over Los Angeles River Project. Recommending the board, 1, authorize and approve the $900,000 in additional contingency and a revised construction budget of $21,497,913 for the project, respectively. And 2, authorize the city engineer to issue subsequent change orders up to the revised construction budget of $21,497,913 for the project. Work orders E1907487 and C-131965. Dr. Campos, who's with us today on this item?
Norm Malhus?
Mr.
Hey,
Mayor.
Nora, how are you, sir?
Good, good.
Good. Good morning. Go ahead.
Good morning. Good morning, President, Commissioners. So Norm Malhus, Bureau of Engineering, Architectural Division. So to give a background, on June 27, 2018, the board awarded a contract to Ortiz Enterprises in the amount of $18.7 million with a contingency amount of $1,872,538 for a total approved construction budget of $20,597,913 to construct this project. This project is currently 90% complete with construction. The scope of the project consists of a multimodal bridge over the Ellie River between Elysian Valley on the south and Taylor Yard on the north. The bridge is designed for bicycle and pedestrian use and will also support emergency vehicles. On the north, the bikeway ramp is currently being constructed, which will lead to Metrolink Facility Road, which will eventually lead to San Fernando Road, and a network of bike paths a couple blocks forward. And it'll be supported, the steel frame bridge is approximately 400 foot long and is supported on abutments on the north and the south and a concrete foundational support pier in the central portion of the Ellie Riverbed. The width of the actual pedestrian and bikeway path is approximately 18 feet. This connection between Elysian Valley and Cypress Park is a much needed connection, and the works of this project has been envisioned for the last 25 or more years. The office of Councilmember Mitchell Farrell, Council District Number 13, and Councilmember Gil Cedillo, Council District Number 1, are strongly supportive of the project and have expressed satisfaction with the overall progress of the work. And we're all looking forward to the completion of the bridge scheduled for September 2021. To date, in terms of the status of change orders for the project, there's a total of 28 change orders costing $1.6 million, and the requested contingency and budget authorization that we're requesting is $900,000 additional contingency, which will bring the new authorized budget to $21,497,913. The pending forecasted change orders that we're anticipating at this time is traffic pedestrian signal striping and signage improvements along the Metrolink Facility Road, additional unforeseen conditions encountered when excavating for the north bike ramp, mitigation measures needed to satisfy requirements that environmental agencies relating to habitat restoration, dust monitoring, and contamination testing, other miscellaneous items needed for the facilitation of the bridge construction, increased concrete, increased rebar, some additional work that may be needed to finalize the scope, or additional added improvements by some other agencies. And also lastly, claims from contractor involving additional labor, equipment, and material needed for construction for the bridge foundation piles and pile cap. At this time, we don't anticipate too many significant change orders beyond those noted above. The contractor did submit claims for additional labor, equipment, and material for construction of the bridge foundation, and BOE has compensated the contractor for these costs unilaterally. To cover the cost of the pending and forecasted change orders listed above, as well as potential claims from the contractor, BOE is requesting an increase to the contingency allocation by an amount of $900,000 for a total revised contingency amount of $2,772,538. This revised contingency will represent 14.8% of the original contract amount. Initially, in the original board report, we did ask for only 10%, but the intent was to always ask for 15%, but at the time, we didn't have all that secure money from Metro yet. As for the status of funding, the total funding currently available for the project is $21.7 million, which consists entirely of funding from Metro. These funds were used to pay for construction costs, construction contingency, and construction engineering administration. But at the time, due to the lowest bid being higher than anticipated, Metro has agreed to increase their funding contribution by $3,750,000. And on February 20th, 2018, City Council approved the city engineer to execute an MOU between the city and Metro for an amount not to exceed $21.7 million for the construction budget for the project. However, on March 24, 2021, the board adopted report number 1, which authorizes the city engineer to execute an amendment to the existing MOU between the city and Metro to increase funding by $3,750,000 to now a total amount of $25.4 million, $25,450,000 for the construction of the project. At this time, this amendment was approved by City Council, and Metro, the city engineer, has signed it. Now it's due from signatures from Metro's team. Funding account has been established for this project in the amount 682, Department 682, Department 50, Fund 682, Department 50, account 50 PBCW. And that's the end of my report.
Thank you, Mr. Malice. Are you the project manager, or are you you're the point on this?
Yeah, I'm the project manager for this.
Exciting. It's going to be a very neat bridge. Okay, let me open this up. President Pro Tem Davis.
Yes, thanks so much for this report. Could you discuss with me the kind of project this is in terms of funding? Is it a locally funded project or is it a federally funded project?
It's a locally funded project from Metro. There are no federal sources for this.
Okay, and so in terms of the prime contractor and the subs that we have on this project are, and of course I know that we kind of assessed this earlier, and there are no new primes there are no new subs joining the project because we've extended the contingency. So it's the existing operation of prime and small businesses that we have. We're just giving more funding for them to complete the work, correct?
That is correct.
And in terms of these subs, I think that the rest of these have to be subs. Unilateral, emergency, are the 2 subs on the project, or is that correct?
Yeah, for the emergency change orders, they did involve both prime and subs. Mostly the sub for the emergency change order that is referenced in the board report.
Okay. So when do we anticipate, has the work already been done and we're backfilling this contingency for the work, or where are we on that?
Well, the work has not been done. The work is pending because we need to increase our contingency in order to proceed with the work. The emergency change order that's referenced actually has been done a while back, maybe a year ago, which we did get authorization for. So that's the need for this board report, so we can continue with the additional contingency to move forward on those change orders.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, President Pro Tem Davis. Commissioner Calosa?
Thank you, President Good. I don't have any questions for Noor and BOE team. I think you did a great job with the report, and it's an exciting project. I remember going to the groundbreaking, and it's hard to believe that it's almost done. So you can add the Board of Public Works as being another excited party for the opening of this bridge in the fall. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, I was already thinking I want to reserve my spot. I want to be there. Maybe ride a horse. I don't know. You don't want to see that. All right. Just one quick clarifying question, Noor, which is so ultimately on with the additional money from Metro that then increased funding up to $25,450,000, which we approved in May or in March. That's just ultimately the not to exceed. I mean, because right now you're not anticipating, even with the $900K in contingency, you're not anticipating reaching that level of cost, right?
Well, with that actually, the amount that's pledged in this board report is just strictly for construction. There's also construction engineering and direct costs. So I do believe that we may come close, not that much. I anticipate maybe up to maybe 24.7 or so that I see at this point, with everything included: total project cost, soft cost, direct cost, contractor cost. But at this point, I do not think we're going to anticipate exceeding 25.4 million.
That's helpful. I appreciate that. All right. I will take a motion to move the item forward. Do I got one from you, Calosa?
So moved.
All right. Do I have a second?
Second.
President Pro Tem Davis with a second. I don't object. And so, hearing no objections, the item is adopted and approved forthwith. Thank you, Nora, very much, and good luck. It's really like one of the coolest looking bridges. It's going to be great.
Yeah, it's even cooler in person when people see it.
That'll be great. I'm looking forward to it. Thanks, man. Thank you very much. Have a great weekend.
You too.
Okay, folks, let's go to item number 2. Speaking of exciting projects. So item number 2 is amendment number 1, right of entry permit, Metabolic Studio LLC, bending the river back into the City of Los Angeles project. Recommending the board, 1, approve the amendment to the previously approved right of entry permit for the bending the river back into the city, which reflects a revised area of the river channel property owned by the City of Los Angeles, as described in the amendment's new legal description, revised infrastructure elements, and new site plan. And 2, delegate authority to the city engineer to execute the ROE permit amendment. Is Ms. Weintraub on this item?
Yes. Good morning, President Good and Commissioners.
Good morning, Deborah.
Morning.
I'm very happy to be here today. President Good, you'll have to ride your horse over the other bridge. On the one that Nora's working on, you'll have to ride your bike. Good morning.
That's right. I forgot it. You didn't correct me. You should have corrected me. That's right. Yeah.
But we look forward to seeing you on your bike.
Mr. President, would you like to consider the public comments on item number 2? I believe we have one person, Mr. Michael Gagan, on the line that would like to provide just a short commentary.
Oh, yeah, that's great. I didn't know if Michael, Mr. Gagan, was wanting to make comment or just be available for questions. Always a pleasure to have Mr. Gagan. Are you there?
He would like to do both, if that's okay with you, Deborah, right before your presentation. Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah, let's go ahead and hear from Mr. Gagan. Good morning.
Well, thank you, Mr. President, and thank you for your support of this project over the last several years. What Deborah is going to present to you is an amendment to right of entry permit the board approved a few years back. The configuration of the in-river work has changed, meaning that the footprint the board approved previously is different. So the new footprint is part of this particular amendment. The amendment is the last city approval that we need in order to obtain a new 408 permit from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. And we anticipate receiving that permit within a month of your hoped-for approval of the amendment before you. I want to thank Deborah Weintraub and Deputy City Attorney Adina Hoppenstand for the superb work that they put into this amendment. And also, Mr. President and Board, we would appreciate your favorable consideration of this item. And I'm also available to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Appreciate that. And we're certainly fans of Ms. Weintraub and Hoppenstand as well. So, Deborah, why don't you jump on in?
Michael gave you the basic layout of what's in front of the board today, which is really an amendment to a prior right of entry that the board approved in 2018. And the amendment is necessary because the design of the in-river piece of the Bending the River Back project has changed from a rubber dam to basically an intake and pipeline system to get the water to the water wheel that is going to be built on the Metabolic Studio property. Just to remind you, the Bending the River Back into the City project is a it's a reconstruction or a modern interpretation of a water wheel that used to exist along the LA River to lift water out of the river originally it was for agriculture use. So Lauren Bond, who is the head of Metabolic Studio, has been working on this project for quite a number of years, and the city and the Bureau have been honored to support her effort. And I know that the design of the water wheel itself has gone through transitions lately. The last I heard, It was approximately a 48-foot structure with about 12 feet of it sitting above the ground and the rest sitting below the ground on Metabolic Studio property. So since we were here at the board in 2018, the original right of entry permit was executed in July of 2019. This amendment just changes the description of the in-river channel work, which is seen as a right-of-way work, and basically the board is amending the right of entry to do that work in the channel. Also, since that time, the memorandum of agreement between the LA Sanitation and DWP for the maintenance of the construction that will bring the water to the water wheel has been executed. That agreement has been amended and it was fully executed in May of this year. There also was a second amendment to the environmental clearance to describe the new intake structure. I just want to say thank you to Michael and particularly to Lauren Bond. This is a totally privately funded project along the LA River, which is both practical because the water that will be lifted by this modern interpretation of the water wheel will be used for irrigation at the state parks and at city parks. And so we're very excited to see it start. According to Metabolic Studio, they anticipate being in the river to start construction, assuming that the board approves this amendment in August of this year. They'll pick up again, they'll end in mid-October, pick up again in May of next year, and hopefully finish the in-river work by October of 2022. The pit construction on their property is anticipated to begin in December of this year, and I don't know exactly how long that will take. So with that, I'm open to any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Weintraub. President Pro Tem Davis.
I'm okay on this particular item. Thank you so much, Deborah, for the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you. Commissioner Closa?
Thank you, President Good. Thank you for your report, Ms. Weintraub, and always good to see you and board. I don't have any questions on this project. Appreciate Mr. Gagan calling in and sharing his thanks to the city and BOE for support on this project. And just exciting, another cool project, and more activity happening in August. Looks like it's going to be a busy month. So look forward to this.
Thank you, Commissioner. Yeah, ditto. I mean, Ms. Bond, Mr. Gagan, BOE, BOS, or excuse me, LA San. This is an exemplar of vision, persistence, and downright relentlessness. Because I still remember briefings about the labyrinthine set of permits and processes that needed to be navigated, and y'all just keep plugging. It's going to be great. Looking forward to August, and I'll motion to move the item forward. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, President Pro Tem Davis. Any concerns or objections, Commissioner Coloso? Great. Okay, hearing none, the item is adopted forthwith. Thank you, Deborah. Thank you, Michael, and thank you from a distance, Lauren. This is great. Looking forward. Very excited for August. And thank you, Dina.
Thank you very much.
All right. Y'all have great weekends.
Bye.
Okay, colleagues, it brings us to item 3. Item 3 is a tree removal request for 10700 through 10800 block West Esther Avenue. Recommending the board, 1, find that the tree removal, 1, classifies as operation, repair, maintenance, or minor alteration of existing street, sidewalk, and gutter involving negligible or no expansion of use beyond that previously existing and does not involve the removal of a scenic resource. 2, that the action is exempt under Article 3, Section 1, Class 1, Category 3, existing facilities, sidewalk repair, or maintenance of the City of Los Angeles Environmental Quality Act Guidelines 2002, and 3, that none of the exceptions to the use of a categorical exemption as set forth in Section 15300.2 of the state CEQA guidelines apply, And 2, review and approve this tree removal permit request for the removal of 13 Indian laurel fig and 1 Mexican fan palm tree for the reconstruction of an off-grade sidewalk. Tree replacements are required. I see that Mr. Miranda has joined us. I suspect you are providing this report. How are you, David?
Good morning, everybody. Board of Public Works Commissioners, Dr. Campos, and President Good. I'm great. Thank you for asking. David Miranda, UFD Superintendent. I am here to present the board a report for the 10700 through the 10800 block of West Esther Avenue citywide sidewalk repair program in Council District 5, requesting no fee permit to remove 13 in the lower figs and 1 Mexican fan palm. All tree replacements will comply with the board's 2-to-1 tree replacement policy and should be planted by the Office of Community Beautification or its contractor. The Bureau of Street Services, Streets LA shall begin weekly watering of the tree replacements upon planting confirmation from OCB for tree watering, and tree watering shall continue for a minimum of a three-year period. The size, species, health, and condition of the trees negate the possibility of tree preservation. The Bureau of Engineering is the lead agency in identifying the affected sidewalks throughout the city of Los Angeles as part of the citywide sidewalk repair program. BSS Site 1436 is working in close collaboration with the Bureau of Street Services and BOE in addressing potential impacts to street trees adjacent to target locations. A Streets LA arborist inspected the subject location on October 23, 2020, and verified that 14 of the 38 trees will be severely impacted by the proposed project and require removal. The trees are in poor condition, measuring approximately 20 to 30 inches in diameter by 40 feet in height and growing in 5-foot parkways. Several of the subject Indian laurel fig trees have fruiting bodies at their root crowns, and all trees appear to be infected with bot canker, a lethal fungus disease that affects the tree ability to conduct water and nutrients to the crown of the tree. The Department of Public Works is proposing to replace the defective sidewalks, curb, gutter, and driveway approaches due to the disruption by the roots and root crowns of the subject trees. The trees have severely outgrown their growth space provided. Debbie Diner Harris, Council District 5, was informed of the tree removal request on January 10, 2021. Notice of the proposed tree removals were physically posted on the trees on October 2, 2020. Proposed tree removals were included in the Bureau of Street Services tree removal notification system. The Community Forestry Advisory Committee and Department of Neighborhood Empowerment were all notified. And thank you all. This concludes our report for Esther.
Thank you, David. Any questions or comments, Commissioner Colosa?
Thank you, President Good. I don't have any questions for Mr. Miranda. I think Mr. Benuelos owes you some lunch for all the tree removals he left you with before he went on vacation. But I appreciate the pictures included. It just looks like there's a lot of overgrown roots in this area, and I'm sure the residents nearby will appreciate some new sidewalk repair that we're going to be doing here. So thanks for your work on this in BOE as well.
Thank you, Commissioner Colosa. President Pro Tem Davis?
Sure. David, the removals are primarily in this particular project, laurel fig trees, correct? That's the majority of those that will be removed as a result of this motion?
Correct. 13.
And what kind of trees are we replacing these laurel fig trees with?
We're going to replant 28 Brisbane box trees.
What kind?
Brisbane box.
What is the difference between Brisbane box and laurel fig trees as it relates to the environment and the habitat in that area as a result of those trees?
They're fast growing. They're not as root invasive as a ficus tree. They provide a lot of good canopy coverage.
Mm-hmm. What kind of change to the habitat environment will occur from our transformation from laurel fig to the ones that we're replacing them with? Do you know?
I'm not too certain about the habitat change, no.
Okay. It tends to be an issue that comes up on occasion As it relates to the council office, I appreciate you having networked with the neighborhood council, and you did discuss with them, and they've had some communication with you about our plan and what we are proposing to execute in this motion. And they agree with you, at least they have not had any opposition that we know of to this plan in this motion, correct?
Correct.
And what about the council office? The city council office, who covers the area?
Right. No comments yet, or no objections.
We have no objection for the council offices.
No.
I think it's critically important as we begin to look more critically at the issue of trees, tree removals. Certainly in terms of urban planning, it's virtually impossible to have every new construction site to take place without some removal of trees often. Certainly you and your department, your division of the Bureau, have made it clear that we try as much as we can to minimize the removal of trees. And yet we need, I think, to have some of the stakeholders more involved. Some of the arborists and others who have input are not necessarily implementing their input with all of the stakeholders involved as we do our work. Process and procedure are both critically important for those who have some recommendations about the work that we are doing, and the lack of feedback that we get and the presentation oftentimes at the meeting is admirable, but sometimes it's inadequate if we have not networked in with the neighborhood council offices as you have, and more importantly, having discussions specifically with the council office, who is a critical stakeholder in the decisions that we make in terms of trees as we implement a necessary thing, which is the buildings that we have to do. So I support this motion, and I hope that moving forward, that as we communicate, and all those who want to communicate with us, I hope that they too, like you have to do, communicate effectively with not only neighborhood councils, but I hope that these other groups who have very critically important information for us, that they communicate effectively with the council offices, because it is important. We are a consensual decision-making process that not only includes expertise on one hand, but on the other hand, it includes the input of various stakeholders in decisions that we make, and that includes your work. So as I look at this, I've asked questions that have come up from some of those who have valuable information for us. And yet sometimes I am not hearing or seeing that all the stakeholders who need to have this information have been communicated with, or certainly they haven't shared that information with us when these motions come before us. So I appreciate you explaining to me that in the Indian laurel fig tree, to our knowledge, we don't know of any change in the environment and the habitat, to our knowledge. And certainly we've not had any other stakeholder in the environmental community who has come to us, and certainly we've not had any opposition from the council office with the decisions that you're proposing. Is that correct? Is that a correct statement?
Yes,
We have not had any opposition that you know of, have we?
No.
Okay, these kind of decisions for me as a board member are critically important. And here's my message today. Not only is it important for us to get the expertise information, it's important for process and procedure to take place in communicating with all of the constituents, for everyone who has an opinion on it. So I support this decision, not blindly. I support it based upon what you're telling me and based upon the feedback that we're receiving from the critical stakeholders in a decision around removal of trees. Neighborhood association, council offices, as well as the citizens and the experts that have something to do with trees. So that's where I'm at on this issue, and I appreciate this discussion. And moving forward, hopefully some of the things that I discuss, we can urge those who communicate with us to make sure that they share their opinions with the total group of stakeholders that are involved in decision making on these kind of items. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, President Pro Tem Davis. Commissioner Colosa?
I think I went already. But I will say, maybe I'll just quickly add that for the general public, if you're interested in what the environmental work and outreach has been done on the sidewalk repair program, it's been substantial. We did just accept the report for the environmental, the EIR, which is posted online at the BOE website, which outlines, to Dr. Davis's point, the crucial need for outreach and input on these really important decisions. And so that report does outline the work that's been done and the accessibility in which I know that the department went out to gather feedback. That said, we know that it's important with every tree removal item that the opportunity to give feedback is there, and we appreciate anyone who does call into our meetings to do that. But I just wanted to add that point for Mr. Miranda, since we did just finalize the EIR for the sidewalk repair program. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner. I think that is a really crucial point. There was an enormous amount of public input in that process, obviously. And David, I mean, bottom line here is we have diseased trees that are failing and that are also in substantial conflict with the existing sidewalk and what would be a subsequent sidewalk, correct?
Correct, yes, the trees are already in severe state of decline, not to mention the sidewalk repairs. The trees should already be scheduled for removal as soon as possible. There's various trees that have been made requests by the respective property owners for removal. They're dead, dying, diseased. There's not to mention they have the mushrooms and conchs all over the root flare. So it's important to get these trees out and scheduled for removal as soon as possible. That's the driver for the removals. If the trees weren't diseased, dying, they would definitely be retained in place and root pruned and new sidewalks be installed. But due to the severe decline of the trees is the reason for removal. And there is a lot of public outreach. Our inspectors go out to the subject sites. They door knock for every tree that's going to be removed, and constant engagement with the whole community block to block throughout the whole project. So there is a lot of public engagement.
And then with replacements, to Dr. Davis's point, we know that the ficus, by and large, don't play nicely with sidewalks for future. Right.
Correct.
Yeah.
It's the right tree in the right place. It's a restricted growth space, only 5-foot parkways, so it's not the right tree in the right place.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay, thank you. All right, thanks, Ms. Miranda. Do I have a motion to move this item forward?
So I'll second.
Okay, got a motion from President Pro Tem Davis, a second from Commissioner Closa. I approve as well, so hearing no objections, the item is adopted forthwith. Thank you, Mr. Miranda. You have a great weekend, okay? Okay, let's see. We have 3 contract acceptances, items 4, 5, and 6. Mr. McReynolds, are you here on these items?
Yes, President Good, I am.
Good morning, Brett. How are you?
5. I think item 6 is.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're exactly right. Let's take 4 and 5. We'll take 4 and 5 together.
Okay.
I'll read them both into the record, and you can then just give us an overview, okay? So item 4 is a contract acceptance, Hamilton Avenue widening Patton Avenue to Barbara Street. Recommending the board accept this contract, work order E1907726. And then item 5, contract acceptance, secondary sewer renewal program, SSRP, P17, Cypress Avenue, and Division Street. Recommending the board accept this contract, work order SDC12536. Good morning, Mr. McReynolds. Tell us about these.
Good morning, President Good, Commissioners. Brett McReynolds, Bureau of Contract Administration. The first acceptance here is for the Hamilton Avenue widening Patton to Barbara Street in CD15. The contract was executed by your board on December 2nd, 2017 to PALP Inc., doing business as XL Paving, in the amount of $918,873 with a contingency for a total authorized budget of $1,102,648. The project provided widening of Hamilton Avenue and Barber Street, and work included curb, gutter, sidewalk, street paving. This is down in San Pedro area. 20 change orders were issued, increasing the total cost of the project to $1,080,662.96, which is 17.61% above its award amount, excuse me, and 1.99 below its authorized budget. Excuse me. Changes were due mainly to issues with the hillside nature of the work, necessitating retaining walls and property line adjustments. All work, including final corrections, was completed on January 14, 2020. There are no unresolved property disputes. Funding was through gas tax, and the contractor has complied with EEO and labor compliance requirements, so we're requesting acceptance. And the second one is Secondary Sewer Renewal Program, P17, Cypress and Division Project in CD 1 and 14. This contract was executed by your board on March 8th, 2017 to MNR Construction in the amount of $5,446,227 with a contingency for a total authorized budget of $5,718,538. The project provided rehabilitation of 6, 8, 10, and 12-inch sewer mains and sewer lines in the main central city area. The work was an upgrade of structural capacity of the sewers collection system. 18 change orders were issued, increasing the total cost of the project to $5,530,428.52, which is 1.55% above its award amount and 3.29% below its budget. Changes were due mainly to issues with unforeseen conditions. All work, including final corrections, were complete in November 8, 2018, with the final release of retention on February 14, 2020, after the Bureau received contract compliance documents from the contractor to close the project out. There are no unresolved property complaints or disputed funds. Funding for this project was through the sewer collection or sewer SCM funds, maintenance funds. Contractors comply with all EEO labor compliance. This project did include a PLA, and all of those goals were met as well. So we're requesting acceptance on this project as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McReynolds. Any questions on items 5 or 6? Commissioner Closa? Or excuse me, 4 and 5?
Thank you, President Good. I don't have any questions for Mr. McReynolds. Thank you for your report, and I'm glad we're closing out these projects officially.
Thank you, Commissioner. President Pro Tem Davis, any questions?
No inquiry from me either, Mr. President. Thank you so much, Mr. McReynolds, for the reports.
Same here. Thank you, Mr. McReynolds. And I'll take a motion to approve items 4 and 5.
So moved.
Second.
And thank you, Commissioner Closa, with a second from President Pro Tem Davis. I vote aye as well, and so with no objections, the items 4 and 5 are adopted and approved forthwith.
Thank you very much.
Have a great weekend, Mr. Reynolds. Okay, folks, that brings us to item 6. Item 6 is contract award, Los Angeles Engineering, Inc., 7th Street Streetscape Improvements, Package 1. Recommending the board find Sully Miller Contracting Company, apparent second low bidder, to be non-responsive as discussed in this report. 2, declare Los Angeles Engineering, Inc., LA Engineering, apparent first low bidder to be the lowest responsible bidder and award LA Engineering a contract for the total base bid amount of $5,701,755. And 3, authorize the president or 2 members of the board execute the contract after approval as to form has been obtained from the city attorney. Work order number or E1908262. All right. Is Mr. Louie here on this item?
Yes, I am. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Louie, and I believe Mr. Monte is probably here as well on this item.
Affirmative.
Great. All right, Mr. Louie, why don't you go ahead and give us a presentation and Mr. Monte, if you have anything to add as well.
Well, good morning. My name is Richard Louie with the Bureau of Engineering Street Improvement Program. Let me give a little background on this project. So this, and I do apologize, this is a little bit of a more complicated report, so my staff report may be a bit long here. The 7th Street project will transform the 7th Street between Figueroa and San Pedro into a multimodal corridor that prioritizes pedestrian, bicycle, and transit enhancements. The projects will construct new curb ramps, bus islands, striping and signal upgrades, and upgrade the existing or construct new eastbound and westbound bicycle lanes with a protected cycle track. This project has been reviewed for environmental considerations and was determined to be categorically exempt under the California Environmental Quality Act. The project was bid with 2 categories of bid items. The first category included bid items 1 through 50, which is referred to as the total base bid amount. The secondary category of bid items were additive bid item alternatives, which were referred to as additive alternative bid section. The bid package states that award of the contract would be based on the total base bid amount, without considering the bid amounts for the additive alternative bid section. The additive alternative bid section prices could be added to the total base amount at the discretion of the City of Los Angeles. For this project, it was determined not to award the additive alternative bid items. The city engineer's estimate for the total base bid amount is $5,986,170. 2 bids were received for the project. The first apparent low bidder is LA Engineering with a bid of $5,701,755, and the apparent second low bidder was Sully Miller with a bid amount of $6,125,000, no hundreds or thousands. It was noted that the apparent second low bidder listed their total bid amount incorrectly. Staff corrected Sully Miller's total bid amount in accordance with procedures set forth in the general instructions and information for bidders. Sully Miller was contacted and notified of the corrections, and the corrections did not change the order of the bids. So now I'm going to just give a little background and information on the Local Business Preference Program. The City Ordinance number 181910 adopted the Local Business Preference Program, or LBE for short. LBE for short. This program is designed to increase local employment and expenditures in local private sector. Bidders that qualify as an LBE may be granted an 8% reduction in their bid amount solely for bid evaluation purposes. Additionally, non-LBE bidders may be granted a 1% reduction or up to a maximum of 5% reduction for their bids for bid evaluation only for every 10% of their bid that is performed by an LBE subcontractor. For this project, Bureau of Contract Administration, or BCA, verified that the apparent first low bidder, LA Engineering, is not a certified LBE contractor, and that the second low bidder, apparent low bidder, Sully Miller, is certified as an LBE. Based on these findings, Sully Miller becomes the first low bidder for evaluation purposes after the LBP percentage was applied. Okay, now I'm going to give some information on the Business Inclusion Program. On January 12, 2011, the Mayor issued Executive Directive number 14, which created the Business Inclusion Program, or BIP for short. This program provides Minority Business Enterprise, or MBE, Women Business Enterprise, or WBE, Small Business Enterprise, or SBE, Emerging Business Enterprise, or EBE, Disabled Veteran Business Enterprise, or DVBE, and other business enterprise, or OBE firms, an equal opportunity to compete for and participate in city contracts. Additionally, the BIP requires bidders to perform and document BIP outreach via the Internet using the Los Angeles Business Virtual Network Service, or LABAVN for short. So for this project, the project was advertised with participation levels of 4% MBE, 2% WBE, 25% SBE, 8% EBE, and 3% DVBE. and it was advertised with mandatory BIP documentation requirements for outreach. Currently, the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender business enterprise, or LGBTBE, is not required as part of the BIP outreach, but it's tracked for statistical purposes. Lastly, the mandatory subcontracting minimum on this project is 25%, or MSM for short. So LA Engineering, the first apparent low bidder, pledged participation levels of 0% for MBE, WBE, and DVBE, and they pledged 0.81% participation for SBE and EBE. Additionally, LA Engineering pledged 0 participation level of LGBTBE and a 29.09% minimum subcontracting MSM. Solly Miller, the second low bidder, which became the first low bidder after local business preferences applied, pledged participation levels of 5.03% MBE, 0.86% WBE, 5.89% SBE, and 0% EBE and DVBE. However, Solly Miller failed to pass their BIP outreach evaluation, which was conducted using LA Babin. Specifically, they didn't meet the BIP indicator, which meant attending the pre-bid meeting requirements. Therefore, it's recommended that their bid be deemed non-responsive. In a letter we received from Solly Miller on April 7th, 2021, they responded to BCA's Business Inclusion Program fail letter, and they requested a reconsideration of the staff's recommendation that Solly Miller's bid be deemed non-responsive. The letter is attached to the board report as transmittal number 2, and Solly Miller, they acknowledge missing the pre-bid meeting, but they would like to be considered for the project due to their SBE participation, as well as due to their reporting that they attended a pre-bid meeting for other projects within the past 12 months prior. However, this letter, Solly Miller's response, failed to provide any information that would change BCA's non-responsive recommendation. The bid proposal part 3 language is clear. BIP indicator 2 states that an employee of the bidder's company must attend the pre-bid meeting scheduled for this project. This requirement may be waived if the bidder certifies in writing that it is informed as to the BIP outreach requirements for the project and has participated in a city-sponsored or city-approved matchmaking event in the past 12 months. Solly Miller neither attended the pre-bid meeting nor participated in a city-sponsored or approved matchmaking event in the past 12 months. Therefore, staff recommends that the board find transmittal number 2, Solly Miller's letter, to be unmerited. LA Engineering, the apparent first low bidder, has been awarded 2 contracts by the Board of Public Works within the past 5 years. LA Engineering has had a record of violation on 1 project, but they have complied with that violation. Other than this violation, no significant or unresolved problems in inspection or contract compliance have been experienced by the Bureau of Contract Administration. So in conclusion of these findings, staff recommends that the board declare LA Engineering, the first low bidder, to be the lowest responsible bidder and award LA Engineering the contract for this project. And that concludes my oral report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Louie. Mr. Monte, do you want to, before we start discussion, would you like to add anything from BCA's perspective?
Not at all. That was extremely thorough.
There we go, Ian. Thank you. All right. President Pro Tem Davis, why don't you kick us off? You're muted, Mike.
Mr. Louie, you said that Solly Miller incorrectly documented their total bid amount. Is that correct?
Yes, but that total bid amount was corrected in accordance with the rules and procedures. Solly Miller was informed of those corrections, and the corrections did not change the order of bidders.
Mm-hmm. And the percentage of over the contract mandated amount for Solly Miller was 2.3%, right? Is that right?
Can you say the question
The
again?
estimate that the Bureau gave for the project, you all gave an estimated cost of the project from the Bureau, correct? Did you give an estimated cost?
Well, I did. You're right. So Solly Miller bid $6,125,000, which is 2.32% above the city engineer's estimate.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Have they raised any concern or given any feedback in terms of the decisions that we've made?
Again, they did submit a letter saying that they request to be, their bid to be reconsidered because of their SBE participation and their assertion that they have attended a pre-bid meeting for other projects within the past 12 months prior. But I'll let BCA respond. I believe that BCA.
So Solly Miller basically failed to attend a required session given by or conducted by contract administration. So as a result of that, that was attributed to their not being valid. Is that correct?
BCA, would you mind?
Can you elaborate, Ian, please, sir?
Yeah, so they didn't attend the mandatory pre-bid meeting that happens for all of the projects. And because they didn't go, they were trying to argue that they should be exempt because they, again, with their LBE participation, but also the fact that they were saying that they attended another pre-bid for another project in the last 12 months, but it's not about attending a pre-bid, it's about attending a matchmaking event, which they didn't do. So it was unmerited, and we let them know, and there was no response from that, after that.
And so I think the issue here is that we require participation from every prime contractor to go through the process regardless of who he or she is as a prime contractor. Our expectation is that they each participate, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay. I hear that I know what their argument is. Their argument is, I guess, is that they know the process and what to do because they go to so many of them for us. But I also understand that we have a standard here, and they did not follow through with the standard.
Absolutely. And if I may add, the project that they were essentially saying would suffice for the requirements is not the same as this project, because this project is covered under a PLA, which is covered in the pre-meeting even just by a touch. The other project was not. So they're different. So again, we're going back to standards, and they didn't adhere, unfortunately, and there's that.
Well, yeah, it's unfortunate because in terms of inclusion, we have quite a paradox in doing our work. In terms of inclusion, they have proven a value of, I guess, inclusion in the work that they do in the past and even now. And yet at the same time, we have a problem with following the process and procedures as it relates to being compelled to follow our training that we require everybody to go through every time. Not just sometimes, but we require it every time. So it's quite a paradox. It's kind of unfortunate that we're in this position because there are some strengths that cannot be realized that they bring to the table because of the failure to follow the process and procedures. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, President Pro Tem Davis. Commissioner Colosa?
Thank you, President Good. And thank you for your presentation, Mr. Louie. And just to reconfirm, the, Sully Miller, they were notified of today's hearing.
Yes, they were.
I just wanted to confirm that in case there was any additional comment they were trying to make. But I don't have any further questions on this. I mean, the only other comment that I would make to LA Engineering, since they are getting the contract award, assuming board passes this, is that I wish their numbers were better, right? For
Absolutely.
there's a lot of zeros in here in places where there shouldn't be. This work, there's a lot of opportunity to engage other contractors, and so I'm disappointed to see that there's not more effort there for what they're pledging to involve more contractors. And I know that the numbers for Sully Miller in that sense for some of the categories were better in that case. So I just wanted to point that out, but appreciate your team's work on this. Thank you.
I had a question, Mr. President. Is it within our scope to consider Scully Miller's request to consider the fact that they have, certainly they had an oversight, but they have in the past not ever had this problem before? Is it within our scope, if our city attorney can answer it, is it within our scope to consider Scully Miller as a board based upon the fact that they have stated a request for special consideration because they didn't intend to, obviously, not get the contract. They intended to get the contract. So one can definitely understand that their effort was to do everything that they could and they fell short of it, but they've asked us to consider that situation. Is it within our scope to do so?
Yes and no. So let me explain.
Okay.
So I understand and appreciate the paradox, as you noted, Commissioner Davis, about the situation that we're being placed in here. And when there are inadvertent errors that are inconsequential deviations to the specifications, those may be waived by the board. However, what we have heard from staff today is this is a mandatory requirement. This is not a inconsequential deviation. And where there is a mandatory requirement that if it were to be waived would offer some competitive advantage to one bidder over another, then unfortunately it's outside of your board's purview to waive such a defect. And so what we've heard here is that the mandatory specification has not been met. They did not attend the pre-bid meeting, nor did they adhere to what is allowed as a way to avoid there is apparently an off-ramp or an exception that could be taken if there is a desire not to attend the pre-bid meeting, and they didn't adhere to that requirement either. So I think that's where this pickle arises, and
Sure.
we've heard the staff recommendations as a result.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Hoffensband. Commissioner Closer, did you have anything else you wanted to add?
No, I had nothing further to add. I appreciate Dr. Davis's additional comments there. Thank you.
No, agreed, and I think paradox is right. I mean, and I would pepper some irony in there as well. In that, I think, and Ian, please disabuse me of this if I'm off, but clearly one of the key messages and parts of the the required pre-bid meeting is I believe is explanation of the BIP process and the obligations under the BIP process. Is that correct, Mr. Monte?
Absolutely.
And so while it is really unfortunate, and yeah, like for both of y'all, the zeros, frankly, in LA Engineering's bid jumped out at me like, I don't know, I'd like to come up with a good metaphor, but just they jumped out. The unfortunate irony is that if we undermine the requirements of the pre-bid process, we're not just sort of fudging around requirements, we're actually undermining a key component of the BIP process, which is, of course, the process we rely on writ large to address, the issues of inclusion. And so, as frankly annoying as it is to see those zeros and not have an option, I personally feel like it's crucial that we hold those requirements sacrosanct, because I will use metaphor here. There's a slippery slope, right? And if we forgive very clear obligations and expectations for folks, then the question comes up the next time. and it's a reasonable question on the part of a contractor if we've made exceptions to, again, rules that I know we all hold very dear to our heart in terms of really ensuring that everyone is crystal clear about their obligations under the Business Inclusion Program. So I share the melancholy around this vote and award. They better do a good job, assuming everyone's there. But I'll go ahead and motion to approve the item and accept the second.
Second.
Thank you, President Pro Tem Davis. Any concerns or final thoughts, Commissioner Closa? All right. Hearing no objections, the item is adopted and approved forthwith. Mr. Louie and Mr. Monte, a exceedingly complex process was demystified with great clarity on both of your parts. So thank you both for your presentations and your generosity in answering our questions. Thank you. And thank you, Adina, very much for your equally clear explanation around what our opportunities are in this process, and aren't. All right, so folks, let's move on to item 7. Item 7 is another contract award, also in CD14. This is Ellencore Belco Electric Inc. Highway Safety Improvement Program, Cycle 6, Olympic Boulevard between Loretta Street and Soto Street. Pedestrian crossing safety enhancements. Federal project number HSIPL-5006-791. Recommending the board declare Ellencore Belco Electric Inc. Elecnor, excuse me, not Ellencore. Sorry, everybody. It's Elecnor Belco Electric Inc. First low bidder, and if Elecnor is on, forgive. First low bidder to be the lowest responsible bidder, and award Elecnor a contract for this project for $566,499. And 2, authorize the president or 2 members of the board execute the contract after approval as to form has been obtained from the city attorney. Work order E1908084. Mr. Louie, are you here for this item as well?
I am. Thank you.
All right. Please proceed, my friend.
Okay. Well, hello again. My name is Richard Louie with the Bureau of Engineering Street Improvement Program. This project will install some curb extensions and an activated pedestrian warning devices with rapid flashing beacons at locations identified as having a high incidence of pedestrian crashes within the Olympic Boulevard corridor. A total of 5 parking spaces will be lost in Council District 14 as a result of this project. The Council office has been informed of the parking loss, and the Council office is in support of the project. This project has been reviewed for environmental considerations and was determined that the project complies with the National Environmental Policy Act under categorical exclusion. 9 bids were received for this project and are listed under the transmittal number 2, which is attached to the report. The city engineer's estimate for this project is $543,256. The lowest of the 9 bids received is Elecnor with a bid of $566,499, which is 4.28% above the city engineer's estimate. Based on the range of bids submitted for the project, staff believes that this bid is reasonable. Elecnor, the first low bidder, submitted page F4 of the signature sheet and affidavit signed and dated by their managing member. However, the dates of the managing member on page F4 did not correspond to the date of the bid. The notary declared that the managing member was present on March 1st, 2021 for their signatures. However, the date of the managing member's signature on page F4 was February 23rd, 2021. Since the bid date was March 2nd, 2021, a clerical error was made by the managing member in listing that signature in February. Elecnor has since provided a revised signature and affidavit sheet dated March 2nd, 2021. BOE staff recommends that this clerical error be a waivable defect and that this error doesn't affect the eligibility of award. Therefore, BOE recommends that the board waive this irregularity and deem Elecnor's bid to be valid. The Assistant City Attorney, Mr. Edward Jordan, has concurred with the recommendations contained in this report. Let me give a little background on the Disadvantaged Business Enterprise Program. This program is a federally funded, this project, is a federally funded project, and it's subject to the City of Los Angeles's Disadvantaged Business Enterprise, or DBE for short, program in accordance with the regulations of the U.S. Department of Transportation and the California Department of Transportation's DBE program. The project was advertised with a DBE goal of 16.5%. Elecnor has pledged a DBE commitment of 16.76% based on the documents submitted by Elecnor. Under the Caltrans Race Conscious DBE program, the bidder must either meet the DBE goal or submit adequate DBE good faith efforts documentation to show that they did a good faith effort. Since Elecnor met the DBE goal, they were not required to submit DBE good faith effort documentation. Elecnor has worked on previous numerous contracts issued by the board. No significant or unresolved problems in inspection, contract compliance, or bidder responsibility have been experienced by the Bureau of Contract Administration. So in conclusion, staff recommends that the board declare Elecnor the first low bidder to be the lowest responsible bidder and award Elecnor the contract for this project. That concludes my oral report.
Thank you, Mr. Louie. Commissioner Colosa.
Thank you for your report, Mr. Louie. I don't have any questions on this item. I appreciate you going into detail about the project and, the funding requirements since this is federally funded. And I think this is also, never mind. I was going to make one comment, but I don't have any questions for you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Colosa. President Pro Tem Davis?
Yes, as Commissioner Colosa said, that the prime contractor is managing a federally funded project here, and as a result of that, certainly his inclusion through the DBA program is certainly in place, and so he has done a great job on that. Overall, he has how much percentage of the project overall, sir, Mr. Louie, is he for the DBE effort?
DBE, they were required to obtain 16.5%, and they have attained 16.7% DBE commitment.
Great. Now, obviously, in the past, we've worked with this company before, correct?
Correct.
We are satisfied with the work that they've done with us before.
We are.
Okay. All right. That's it for me. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thanks, Mike. I will note, and I think it's important that this is distinctive. This is a distinctive situation from our previous item, where at least I think it's an important dialogue for the public in that the failure to participate in the pre-bid meeting or even to mitigate that with the sort of, as Dina put it, off-ramp opportunity, which is clearly articulated to them, that was a material effect or a material mistake that does have meaningful impact, again, in terms of our ability to ensure that the department writ large is able to ensure that the business inclusion program is effective and clear. Here, I think discretion was merited because it is an immaterial mistake. And so I think for everyone's benefit, it's important to really draw a very clear line there in terms of comes with a difference. So anyway, for what it's worth, thank you, Mr. Louie, for another comprehensive report. I have no further questions, and we'll take a motion to approve the item.
So moved.
Thank you, Commissioner Closer. President Pro Tem Davis, you want a second?
Second.
All right. I am an aye, so hearing no objections, the item is adopted forthwith. Thank you, Mr. Louie. You are off the hook and done, I believe.
Thank you, President Good.
You have a good weekend.
You too.
Come back to LA. It looks like you're in San Francisco. All right. Thank you, Richard. All right, folks. That brings us to item 8. This is another contract award for Mike Perlich and Sons, Inc., Arroyo Seco Low Flow Diversion Project, AS-15, AS-21, and via Marisol Street Reconstruction Project, work order numbers S33WFIGU, S33WMARI, and E1908114. Recommended the board declare Mike Perlich and Sons, Inc., first low bidder to be the lowest responsible bidder, and award Perlich a contract for this project for $5,181,153.45, and 2, authorize the president or 2 members of the board to execute the contract after approval as to form has been obtained from the city attorney. I've already read the work order, so I will spare you that repeat. Looks like Chris Johnson from ZZ Top is with us, from BOE, is with us today. Hi, Chris. How you doing?
I have cut it shorter.
Even as I said that, I was like, actually, he trimmed it.
That's right.
Good to see you, man. I love your beard, so I just had to have some fun. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioner. Good morning. Chris Johnson with Bureau of Engineering Clean Water Division. This project has 3 elements that include construction of low-flow diversion facilities at 2 locations along the Arroyo Seco, and also the reconstruction of a distressed portion of Via Marisol. The low-flow diversions are located on Figueroa Street near Sycamore Grove Park in Council District 1, and on Via Marisol adjacent to Herman Dog Park in CD 14. LA Sanitation Environment identified the Arroyo Seco watershed as a high priority outfall with significantly high bacteria levels during dry weather flows that occur on non-rainy days. These 2 facilities are being constructed to meet municipal separate storm sewer system permit deadlines established by the LA Regional Water Quality Control Board. Each low-flow diversion consists of a diversion structure, a precast reinforced concrete culvert, a trash collection maintenance shaft, pump well, a valve vault, and a flow meter vault. These facilities will convey the highly polluted dry weather flows to the Hyperion Water Reclamation Plant. The other element, the Via Marisol Street reconstruction, is located at the side of the low-flow diversion adjacent to Herman Dog Park in CD 14. That's why the street reconstruction is combined with these water quality improvement projects to gain the to minimize disruption to the community and gain some benefit of the synergy of the 2 projects. The existing roadway at this location has shown signs of distress. It was determined through a geotechnical investigation that the roadway was built on top of an unstable backfill back in the 1920s. Streets LA has temporarily closed the north half of the roadway, reducing lane capacity for motorists and bicyclists. This portion of the project removes about 1,400 feet of distressed improvements along the roadway and 3,000 cubic yards of earth from beneath it around the location of the low-flow diversion. We'll replace that earth with base material, roadway base material, and a grid reinforcement before reconstructing 1-lane curb and gutter and the sidewalk. Construction cost estimate for all 3 elements is $6,546,427 with a contract duration of 321 days. The board received 7 bids for this project. Mike Perlich and Sons was the low bidder with a bid of about 20% below the city engineer's estimate. There are no protests from bidders. Mike Perlich was notified about this meeting and acknowledged receipt of that notification. I'm not sure if they're present. The Office of Contract Compliance reports that Mike Perlich has complied with the Business Inclusion Program requirements of the bid, and the project incorporates a project labor agreement. Finally, funding for the project is provided in 2 parts. The 2 low-flow diversions are funded by Measure W local municipal program funds, and the street reconstruction is funded by the Road Maintenance Rehabilitation Fund. Total funding for this project is not to exceed $5,885,433.80, including contingency. I can take any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. President Pro Tem Davis.
Yes, thank you so much, Chris Johnson. I appreciate your report and happy to see that Mike Perlich and Sons was able to bid under the recommended amount for the project. That's always really good for us. And can you just briefly discuss their inclusion? This is a federally funded project or a local funded project?
This is a locally funded project. Actually, the roadway maintenance funds are SB1 funds, and the water quality portions are Measure W, which are the LA County flood safe clean water funds. The portion that's transferred to LA Sanitation for their local project implementation. This will be the, I believe, the first project implemented by using those funds in the city.
And what is the business inclusion like? Is there any effort towards business inclusion from Perlich and Son in terms of this project?
Yes, shown in the report, they too have a lot of zeros in their actual pledges. Their numbers are 1.66% MBE, 0% WBE, 1.66 SBE, 1.66 EBE, 0% DVBE, and 0% LGBTBE. The anticipated levels established by contract compliance are the same as the other projects of 4% MBE, 2% WBE, 25% SBE, 8% EBE, and 3% DVBE.
So we fell a little short there. There seems to be some wink at least attempting to achieve something in that regard. Always we would love to achieve more, but sometimes in addition to that, and I'm the last one to give prime contractors an excuse, but sometimes that the expertise and the subspecialty becomes a challenge in terms of how many minorities are in a certain subspecialty. It doesn't mean that we could not have achieved what staff felt that we could have here. I've heard the name Mike Perlich before from many contracts. What kind of performance do we recognize them as having with us in projects?
Overall, pretty good. You know, the report also references their work record. They've done a number of projects and have had no significant or unresolved problems experienced by contract administration. I know that in the past, you know, they also perform as an on-call contractor on a couple of different emergency lists for the Bureau of Engineering.
Okay. Well, great. I've certainly heard their name before, and it seems like you're generally pleased with the performance of their work. And I'm sure they already have gotten word that we would love to see representation of Los Angeles in the work that we do. I'm sure that word has gotten out. We've talked about it for at least a year, if not longer, now. So with that and with this project, it is a project that's in an area that is a challenge as well in terms of the kind of work that is being required. So with that, I will move forward with the item. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Dr. Davis. Commissioner Closa.
Thank you, President Good. Thank you for your report, Mr. Johnson. I don't have too much more to add, but echo the sentiments of Dr. Davis on this, the business inclusion. The only other comment I'll make is that I appreciate the low bid in general. 20% is quite low, and more than that, I think I saw 4 of the 7 bids that we received were low, so that's some good cost savings in general. So just wanted to point that out, and thanks for all this, Mr. Johnson.
Yeah, rather than at the risk of, I would say in service to, sounding like a broken record. I also am less than dazzled by 1.66%. I recognize Mike makes a perfectly salient point that there are certain situations where it just is what it is in terms of options. But sure would have liked at least to hit BOE's 4% recommendation. But that said, also it's a low bid, which is nice, and they are at. I did see that they hit 46%, 42% in terms of subcontractor participation, which is certainly good. And it's a local approach, is a local business as well. So with all that, look, everybody just needs to be on notice. Folks doing great work, but this board cares deeply and profoundly about that. And so for everyone on this call, please make sure that you continue to communicate that with as much intention, clarity, and zeal as you possibly can. With that, I'll take a motion to move the item forward.
Move.
Thank you, President Pro Tem Davis. Do I have a second from Commissioner Closa?
I'll second.
All right. I will vote aye, and thus, with no objections, the item is adopted forthwith. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Chris. Have a good weekend, okay?
Thank you, you too.
Excellent work. Appreciate it. Okay, folks, that brings us to item number 9. Item number 9 is an authority for expenditure, Athens Services. Bureau of Sanitation and Office of Accounting are requesting board approval and execution of an authority for expenditure in the amount of $9 million to encumber funds to process approximately 420 tons per day of blue bin residential curbside recyclables collected from EV East Valley and WV West Valley from July 1, 2021 to June 30, 2022. AE 2205, AE 22508179M, Fund number 508, Solid Waste Revenue Fund, Department number 50, appropriate for Unit 50VX82. So what is the appropriation? Thank you. Thank you. Appropriation unit Friday, folks. 50VX82. I see Alex Salou is with us. I see Dr. Rowena Romano is with us. Thank you both for joining. It's good to see y'all. Who's presenting? Rowena, are you?
I am.
All right, Dr. Romano, give it to us.
All right. Good morning, President Good, Commissioners Davis and Caloza, and wherever Garcia and Villegas are. So, good morning to them too. City Attorney, Bureau Representatives, and Executive Officer Rowena Romano, Senior Environmental Engineer with LA Sanitation and Environment. As you have read off, President, we are here today for your authorization from this board to utilize the Authority for Expenditure, AFE, with a letter of agreement to pay for the processing of approximately the 420 tons per day of residential blue bin material collected from our West Valley and East Valley waste sheds, and this will be with Arakilian Enterprises, DBA Athens Services. With this AFE LOA, Athens will receive and process the blue bin material at their Sun Valley Material Recovery Facility and process and sort the materials for marketing. Any of the residual materials known as contamination, we will dispose at the landfill. They will dispose at the landfill. The AFE LOA will be for 1 year, starting July 1st all the way to June 30, 2022, and for the not to exceed amount of $9 million, which includes contingency. Athens Services will charge the city $91 per ton. That's a processing charge, but also share about 20% of the average fiber price with us, which will reduce that $91. So we are looking to start off at about $64 per ton. The AFE is needed to continue the essential services that we provide to the residents in the Valley area. LA San released an RFP back in January 2020, for which the service provider for the southern districts, which includes West LA, North Central, South LA, and Harbor, was selected. And that contract came before your board late last week and is now making its way for further approvals. However, we're still in the process of selecting the service provider through that RFP for the Valley areas, and we'll need a little bit more time to complete that selection and negotiation. So in the meantime, continuing these services for our residents and to continue with our current provider, which is Athens Services. The funding for this will come from the Solid Waste Revenue Fund. So with that, I'll take any questions, and Alex is here as well.
Thank you, Dr. Romano, as always. President Pro Tem Davis?
Yes. In terms of the contract with Athens, is this their first contract in this area for us in doing the blue bin, or is this a renewal?
So we have been using them for the last 2 fiscal years through an LOA as we are doing the RFP process to bring on the longer term contracts.
I see. So that they are just here temporarily for this service?
Right. The AFE will just be for 1 year.
Okay. And we anticipate going out to bid in the future on this area for a more permanent vendor. Is that right?
Yes. We put the RFP out January 2020. So we're still in the selection negotiation phase for the Valley areas. So this would just be for the East Valley, West Valley. We came to board late last week for the southern areas, which included West LA, South LA, Harbor, and North Central.
So Athens' performance in the last 2 terms in which they've had the contract obviously has been satisfactory at the very least.
Yeah, they're processing our blue bin material in the valleys.
In terms of the permanent contract, are we looking for somebody who has more capacity to provide the service?
Athens has mentioned that they do have the capacity, but we have not completed our evaluation for the Valley areas as of yet, Commissioner.
In terms of revenues that we generate from this kind of a contract, are there any reinvestments on the revenues from what we gain from this contract back into the city in any way? That does it go back to general fund? Does it go to a foundation for which we can use to provide other services, or what is the issue?
Right. I believe it does go back to our Solid Waste Revenue Fund to support our operations. Alex, if you have additional.
Yes, hi. Commissioner, we are not generating any revenue from this contract. We are paying $64, like Dr. Romano was mentioning. So right now, there is no money to reinvest back. So what happened is we have a $91 processing fee, and then we subtract from the 91 20% of the price of the fiber commodity. So the price of commodity is 128, 130. 20% of that comes to the city. So they subtract 91 minus 20, and then that's how the $64. So we end up paying 64. There is no revenue coming to us.
Did we in our strategic planning anticipate that this area of service would be one in which we would be able to count on for a revenue generating proposition?
In the RFP that Dr. Romano mentioned, we put some, if there is any revenue. However, because of the markets overseas, which we rely on, China,
Sure.
I know you're probably getting tired of us keep telling you what's happening internationally. Unfortunately, the markets are not what they used to be. We used to generate $6 million, right? That comes back to offset the cost of the program. Right now, we are not generating any revenue.
And it's hard to predict on an international, on a global perspective. It's hard to predict what we anticipate the market to do, to grow or develop, or we don't know if it's an invariable rate basically in terms of what we see globally as far as recyclables are concerned. Is that pretty accurate?
Well, we track the commodity pricing. We track the commodity. We do projections based on supply, demand, what's on the markets. We follow the literature on it. So we do project what's going to be. Unfortunately, most of the markets that were available before 2015, 16 are no longer there, right? So right now, our projection, the best thing we could do is, we still have to pay, maybe make a little bit of money, but there's no way we're going back. So what part of the American Rescue Act and the new infrastructure bill that's being talked in Washington, we are looking at maybe investments back in the United States, so we can have some markets.
Good.
But right now, the markets unfortunately do not exist. So the program costs us money, not generating revenue.
Wow. Okay, well, thank you so much for that information, and we look forward to the future of what the potential for this area could be. Thank you.
Thank you, President Pro Tem Davis. Appreciate that. Commissioner Coloso?
Thank you, President Good. I appreciate Dr. Davis's additional questions and information that were received. Thank you, Dr. Romano, for your report, and Mr. Halu for being here. I don't have any questions on this item. I think you all explained it really well. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Coloso. Excellent job, Dr. Romano and Mr. Halu. Yeah, Mike, to your questions, years ago, we did make money on these contracts, and those markets have literally flipped, and it's so dynamic and so fluid right now. I think the markets actually have gotten a little better, but to Alex's point, it's inconceivable that they're ever going to get to the 2015-16 sort of range. But I think that the flexibility built in one more year of this LOA, I think is merited, and I think that's wise. So I have no further questions. I'll motion to move the item forward. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, President Pro Tem Davis. Any last objections or concerns, Commissioner Coloso? Okay. Hearing none, the item is adopted forthwith. Thank you, Mr. Halu. Thank you, Dr. Romano. Y'all have great weekends.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, colleagues. We have an administrative item on number 10. The mayor has approved and authorized the Board of Public Works on behalf of the Bureau of Sanitation to execute the memorandum of understanding with the Department of Water and Power for the development of recycled water for the Hyperion Water Reclamation Plant. Referral BPW 2020-0478. You'll recall we had this at board not too long ago. Do you have a motion to receive and file this communication from the mayor?
All
right,
I'll second.
All right, I'll take the motion from Colosa, seconded by Davis, and I'm an A, or an I. So hearing no objections, the item is received and adopted forthwith. Then item 11 is also an administrative item. The mayor has also approved and authorized the Board of Public Works on behalf of the Bureau of Sanitation to execute the professional service agreements with Browning Ferris Industries of California, DBA Sunshine Canyon Landfill, a Republic Company, and USA Waste California, Inc., TVA Waste Management for disposal services for municipal solid waste. Reference BPW-2021-0289. Do I have a motion to receive and accept or file this item as well?
So moved.
Thank you, Davis. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Colosa. I'm also an aye on this, and so we will receive and file this communication from the mayor as well. All right, folks. So, Dr. Campos, I believe that clears the decks. Yes?
You have one last item, non-voting, item number 12.
Oh, goodness.
Mr.
Oh, my goodness.
Young was patiently waiting for us.
Who's here for it?
Mr. Young, James Young.
Mr. Young, please forgive. My goodness. How are you, sir?
I'm great. How about yourself?
Good. Better that you're here now. Thank you for your patience. Item 12, status update on major upcoming street improvement projects from James Young. Hello, sir.
Good morning, Mr. President, Commissioners, the Bureau Representative, and Dr. Campos. My name is James Young with Bureau Street Services Superintendent. This information is being provided to keep the public informed on upcoming resurfacing projects to minimize the impact on the community as well as delay to the commuters. Streets LA would like to provide you with an update on all major street improvement projects. There is no major street improvement projects in the Valley region or the Metro region in the week of June 27th to July 3rd.
All right.
During this week, the combination of Metro and Valley will complete 8 projects for a total of 9.2 lane miles. The press release were broadcasted and notified and have been issued. Streets LA has coordinated with the City Council offices to assist with outreach to the stakeholders, and we have coordinated with LADOT for traffic control assistance, and the information is available on Streets LA website. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Young. Appreciate that. Any questions, Dr. Davis?
No questions for me. Thank you for the report.
Fabulous. Thank you. Any questions, Commissioner Colosa?
No questions for me. Thank you for your work and your report. Have a great weekend, Mr. Young.
Thank you, Sue.
Ditto. Thank you for the report, Mr. Young. You have a great weekend. Again, apologize for almost cutting you off there, but thank you for your patience.
It's fine. You have a good weekend.
Thank you, sir. All right, Dr. Campos, Groundhog Day. Have we cleared the decks?
Yeah, you have, yes.
All right. Thank you, folks. This meeting is officially adjourned. Have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. Commissioners, we will not be having a management meeting. So you just gained an hour of your lives back. All right?
All right. Thank you.
Thank you all. Have great weekends, okay?
Sure. Thank you.
Bye.
Have a great weekend.
Bye-bye.